For my job, I had been flown out with the whole team to run a research study with our clients. And I didn't actually get to interact with our customers that much. So I was actually looking forward to getting to know them, seeing if I could make a more positive impact on their lives with the work that we do. I get there, and my coworkers and I are ready to go into our first meeting. And my managers turn to us and start to explain how we're going to show the customer that we're listening with this research study so that they can decide to continue working with us as opposed to leaving us for a competitor. But we're not actually going to follow through with any of our research. So they were basically saying if we appear so present and like we're hearing them, how are they going to leave us for our competitors? At this point, the wind was just knocked out of my sails for that full week of being away from home. My drive was absolutely gone. I thought I was here to help people. I thought I was here to deliver a good service to our customers, to do my job. And we spent the next week pretending to be interested in our clients, pretending like we care and want to make a positive difference for them. And this honestly has been what I wanted to talk about. This has been the biggest disappointment for me about corporate culture. I thought it was all about skills. So I had been heads down, improving my skill any chance that I got. I had been doing this since my college days. And while I still have a ways to go, all of that grinding does have me feeling pretty capable for a young guy. But what I didn't know was while I was building all these skills that would hopefully be moving the needle on projects, things that were really tactical, on the ground kind of things that would, I would think, move the needle. Companies weren't measuring success based on moving the needle on the projects themselves. I remember back in my days of interviewing at first, I would ask in the interviews, how does your company measure success? And it should have been a major red flag to me when no company was able to answer this question. At my last corporate job, it was never about skill or moving the needle for the company. And I thought, how are people okay with raises, layoffs, and all of this based on popularity? I give them the benefit of the doubt and initially think this must be all they can fall back on with no system in place to capture the return on investment, the ROI of the work. But then the company proved the popularity contest wasn't a mistake. It was a conscious choice that they were continuing to put in place. The company, in my case, created a literal system to decide the salary of their employees. And at first, I'm thinking, oh, this sounds great. This could be a big step for them. We really need something like this, something to really track and make sure people are getting what they're deserved. And then I saw the tool that they were coming out with to help put this in place. It was an internal tool that they built where employees could collect scores and reviews from their coworkers and managers to get rated on a variety of skills. It was like some kind of social credit determining your salary. Even if you weren't good at everything, the people who would be deemed more successful were those who asked as many coworkers for reviews across every skill. If your coworkers liked you and you had asked them to be rated on a skill like acquiring new customers, they'll likely rate you pretty high, right? They like you after all. Now you'll stand above others at the company, even if the customers you acquired were zero. And Timmy over there brought in 200 customers last week, but Timmy's been too busy working, so he has no reviews. So giving Timmy a raise is a shaky thought, huh? because Timmy might track that 200 number, but the company doesn't. And they're fixated on building a review system rather than a way to track some actual numbers. So naturally, when this tool released and the implications were set for how this testimonial tool would affect us, everyone stopped working. Surprise, surprise, they were told their salary, the amount of money that goes into their pockets, putting food on the table, supporting their spouse, their kids, a roof over their heads, was going to be impacted by this testimonial tool and collecting as many positive reviews on themselves as they could rather than working. The pause on work lasted a good week or more at first, and I'm sure it still continues in a way. All of these people were filling these long review forms out for each other all day. They weren't incentivized to work. They were incentivized to focus on optics, to perform, to pretend for others. And it's clear that I can see different types of people in this optics environment. We have first people who are opposed to it and don't take part in it, some aggressively refusing it. Next, we have people who play the game often because they feel it's the only way. And most of these people are acting on fear. Some present like they're actually acting on fear, while others hold their heads high, speaking loudly, are convincingly confident to some, pretending to be strong despite also acting 100% out of fear. And then you have the last group. These are leaders and managers who are unwilling to arrange any other system than popularity. I don't know why this happens. At first, I thought it was due to their own busyness. Maybe that does play a role. But are they needing a collective response from other management? Are they the people who played the game long enough that they became management? And because playing the game is all they knew, that's how they view being a leader and manager? I mean, genuinely, I don't know for sure. Despite the clear groups forming a narrative, it's of course different case by case, but that doesn't mean it's not real. Of the first group who refuses to play the game, I watched our most skilled people be let go in favor of retaining some of our least effective people who do play the game. But the thing is, that's my word against theirs, right? Like, how do I, of all people, know that these laid off folks were actually better than the others? To me, I feel this way because the better folks talk the talk and walk the walk. They say you will know people by their fruits. Some people manage to worm themselves into every conversation, make as many meetings as possible, look like they were doing a lot. And once in those meetings, everything they said was circular. They were clinging to someone else's opinion until a more intimidating manager got them to start spouting a different opinion. And they'd turn on a dime to start spouting that one, an opinion that they couldn't even articulate why they necessarily believed it in the first place. The better folks, they don't start a conversation just to look like they know what they're doing. But when they are brought into or start a conversation when needed, they come into a conversation with their own problem solving, their own ideas, their own willingness to articulate an opinion different than their managers because they want to do actual work that moves the needle, work that creates positive change. And if they're reasonable, these people are also, of course, willing to listen, willing to negotiate on the right course of action. They can collaborate on the solution. But if you have enough optics seeking cronies in the room, there's a good chance they'll speak louder and overtake. And I've seen it happen too many times. When I first got to the company, it was different. The management was more grounded, and at the time, folks would just aggressively yell at each other until a decision was decided on. And some folks I know found this intimidating. But to me, those days were far better. Now, some smart people aren't being heard. Their voices are absolutely silenced, and everybody is just being beat into crony mode submission. And I'm disappointed because I had faith that companies and institutions were better than that. I held them to a higher standard. The bar is lower than I had expected. And of course, that's not to say every company is like this all the time. Clearly, my company was once better than it is today. But as I have lived the corporate lifestyle and talked with others who have as well, it seems more common than I thought. I come from a blue collared background, a place where there is no HR, a place where there's not a ton of workers, and a place where you get the job done and you go home. But it's hard work and no one necessarily wants to do it. And despite all this, I can't shake my belief in hard work. It's what my dad taught me, it's what dad's dad taught him, and it's the right thing to do. I think there's been a recent worsening of this optics crony behavior. Right now, at least, we're trapped in this employer's job market, and the employees have little power, and so their voices are stripped away. And if they want to keep their jobs, they'll keep quiet. It makes me wonder, is this the reason why Gen Z is turning to God all of a sudden? Because they're struggling to simply work a job because they can no longer find meaning having a voice as a software developer or some sort of senior business analyst. The identity, the community, the earth that they thought they were standing on was scaffolding and it's coming apart underneath them. I think a lot of us are looking for solid ground to stand on in finding a job, but in ways bigger than we know, too. That being said, let me know if these thoughts have got you thinking any type of way. Thanks for hearing me out.